It's Klayton, aka Celldweller, in collaboration with Vintage King Audio. And today I'm going to talk about a collaboration between Roland and Moleco Heavy Industry, the System-500. So I've been a fan of Roland's analog synths for years. I have a Juno 106, a Juno 60, etc., etc. I'm familiar with the sound, but I had to have a System 100M. So when I found my System 100M, I had to have it shipped from Japan, and it cost more than double than this unit right here. And only about a year and a half or two later, Roland and Moleco Heavy Industry announced their collaboration on basically resurrecting this beast. And to my ears, these things sound identical. If you want to know more about how that collaboration happened too, look up Josh from Moleco at Music Messa from 2015 and he explains it all. It's very interesting stuff. This has a very unique sound. The filters sound great. They're really snappy. I really love it. The oscillators are super beefy. Hard sync, if you're into that sound, and I definitely am, is great on this little beast. Let me just show you a few little examples so you can hear it for yourself. So at its core, you've got two oscillators, two filters, two VCAs, two envelopes, and some effects, and an LFO, and a bunch of other little goodies that are packed into this little system. So I dialed in a sequence with the Audio Damage Sequencer 1, which is a very powerful sequencer, and I just threw something together really quick to demonstrate not only the oscillators tracking 1 volt per octave, but also filter modulation, the envelopes, and you'll get a little cross-section of the whole unit. So I'm only going to play the first oscillator right now with no modulation to the filter, so you'll hear me just kind of tweak the filter in real time, but there's nothing else modulating the filter, and it's straight oscillator tone through the filter. So as you can hear, that sounds really good, and the filter sounds really good. And of course, we want to modulate that. And you've got multiple modulation inputs for each of the sources, be it 1 volt per octave for the oscillators, modulation sources for the filter, which really allows you to do a lot of different things. And I do have a couple of modulation sources on each filter to show you that. Let's just start with a simple ADSR envelope assigned to the cutoff of the filter frequency. And I'm going to bring that up using this attenuator, and you'll hear it. You can hear a very sharp attack, and as I crank up the resonance too, you can hear how snappy these things can sound. So I used the same sequence of pitch information going to the second oscillator using this tip-top audio mult cable here. So the same exact pitch information is going to both oscillators. So I tuned the second oscillator up a fifth. Let's listen to just the second oscillator. And just like before, I'm going to bring up the envelope to the filter. So to give you a good example of multiple modulation sources for these, on this first oscillator, I'm not only using the built-in 540, the System-500 540 module envelope to affect the filter cutoff, I'm also bringing in an LFO that I dialed in on the Sequencer 1. And I have a different modulation source coming out of the Sequencer 1 for the second source. Let's just listen to the first oscillator and the first filter with now two modulation sources, one being the envelope, the second being there's a 32-step sine wave LFO that's going to change the filter cutoff. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing on the second oscillator. I have a 16th note random stepped voltage in addition to the built-in envelope. So you'll hear again the two modulation sources, one being the built-in envelope, the second being a 16th note random step voltage from the Sequencer 1. So there you go. You do actually have another input. So you actually have 3 per filter section, 3 modulation input sources. So the System-500 is set up very similarly to the System-100M, the original, as far as inputs and outputs, number of oscillators and filters and envelopes, etc. So what I want to do now is play both oscillators, both whose filter frequencies are being modulated by 2 modulation sources each. And I'm going to bring in a beat I made using one-shots from my software instrument, Transport. You can also use a keyboard like my beloved Keith McMillan Q Nexus or something of the like to play it without having to necessarily send information from a sequencer. So there's a lot you can do here. This is just one quick demonstration. I'm not trying to change the world and write an opus for you. I just want you to hear a little bit of what it sounds like, how flexible this is, and why you should get one. Thanks for sticking all the way through this episode of Celldweller Production. And if you are convinced that you need a Roland/Moleco Heavy Industry System-500, head over to Vintage King and they'll get one for you. You could even give it to your grandma as a gift and she will love you even more than she already does. There's lots more of this kind of stuff coming to my channel, so if you want to see more cool product demos, I'm also doing an educational series on the basics of synthesis and modular synths specifically. Subscribe to my channel or save this playlist. And until next time, this is Klayton, aka Celldweller, signing off.